Hello, hello, my followers, or people joining me tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about the Zimmerman thing, but mainly we're going to be talking about implications with the Bohemian Grove, who's at the Bohemian Grove, and a number of other things. I'm just going to go ahead and take a look. Uh, one good reason to follow me on Twitter or Facebook is to get the feed, because I just found out that the easiest way to go through this is to simply go up my wall and talk about it. So um, let's see. I guess if we wanted to start with the biggest news really is that the Bohemian Grove kicked off. Well, I guess they got together yesterday. It lasts 2 weeks, and it's gonna, it kicked off probably kicked off tonight or today. And I think some pretty big decisions are going to be made there. Some people that are over there include the former general that was head of Afghanistan during that time. I think his name was McChrystal. And people say that he covered up, or he had some role in covering up what happened to what's that football? It's like basically this football player, famous football player, like ended up going to fight in the war, and then he got killed with friendly fire. And regardless, obviously to even be in that position, there has to be some level of compromise. But anyway, he ended up speaking out against Obama, and then they basically ran this piece on him, and all it was about him speaking out against Obama, and it was Michael Hastings that did that. And now you see that Michael Hastings is dead, and this is just prior to the same man, but see, now that's not why Michael Hastings died. Michael Hastings died essentially for agreeing with McChrystal now that there's something up with Obama. So the implications there we're going to talk about in just a little bit. Okay, the first thing I want to point out, let's talk about the Zimmerman thing first. So well, they are talking a little bit about the stand your ground law, castle doctrine, and but they're doing a good job of defending it. The thing is that you've got the whole nation protesting right now, and they just showed like a picture of Manhattan, and everybody's just kind of standing around, and that's overall good. That's nice. I think somebody was tweeting, and it may be a hoax, but they were tweeting from LA saying that the LAPD was firing rubber bullets at them or whatever. So that may be the case, but let's go ahead and just read some of the things I say here. Let's see. I said, I cannot express the perhaps unintended consequences brought about by the phenomenal, albeit inadvertently assisted, defense team in the Zimmerman trial. Every up-and-coming law student and every lawyer just became solidified in espousing constitutional rights and especially gun rights and self-defense. Are you kidding me? How many times is this going to say? Sorry, 1 second. Unfollow. All right. Gun rights and self-defense. You just watched something very permanent happen tonight. Either the powers that be are very clever, or they aren't, or there's something supernatural driving these events. So I think inadvertently, because that entire case that went down, like when the defense team and the prosecutors were being questioned by the people, you could almost hear this sense of like fascination in the way the case was in the way the trial went down, or the way the case was portrayed. It was almost like a learning experience for people that are into constitutional law, or people that, basically up and coming lawyers, and including like trending lawyers right now. And they were like, what was this tactic and what was that tactic, and just the way that they had this sports commentator sort of thing going on. But they had that for the other strange trials too, like Jodi Arias' trial. But the thing is that what got hammered home, maybe inadvertently, was that it's really cool, or it's really, involved to it's really cool to be, to handle things and win cases in terms of like defense of constitutional rights. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that it affected a lot of people's minds with it affected a lot of people's minds with how the mainstream media impacts the case, how political motivations are trying to subvert the Constitution, and it probably, you'll see things start moving in a legal manner towards a very libertarian perspective, I think, as a result. And just really, really strange, odd, not odd, but what I mean is like interesting how that basically happens. So let me go ahead and bring, because that's what my mind's thinking about right now. I need to bring up the thing to see your comments. Okay, so we were just talking about how they inadvertently may have just solidified the libertarian perspective on things through that case. Oh, and I just deleted my position. So the point that I was trying to make there was that when people warn you about martial law, when they warn you about the subversion of our rights and stuff like that, that is now done. I mean, that case right there, I'm assuming they don't mess with it, basically just gave all lawyers a sense of like pride in espousing constitutional rights, and particularly gun rights and self-defense laws. And that, coupled with lots of blowback in terms of recent failed psyops, is doing that. But it also suggests conspiracy theory. So what I'm saying here is that there's a roaring, raging fire amongst the intellectuals. The sheeple and the idiots, they just kind of like parrot whatever the parrot and propagate whatever the intellectuals are doing. But let me just go ahead and read some of this other stuff. I said it is terrifying, because I think that the whole event is staged, the whole trial is staged. But anyway, I said it is terrifying that their power has grown to such an extent that they can nearly in an instant forge entire trials, persons, accredited institutions, and even entire towns. And then I said, you idiots, you let them print money. So yeah, as a result of them printing money, and let me go ahead and say this, the fact that they're operating so in the open, I think indicates that there's not a fear of tipping off powerful people, because all powerful people are now on board or involved with this process that you see occurring now, which is essentially the toppling of, a certain core group of bad guy inner powerful people, which was the intended result of engaging in conspiracy theory. So, that's what you have to do. You have to wake up people with power, basically, if you want to get anything done. But then you always have to keep your wits about you. Like I said here, hey, intelligence agent, they are pretending to investigate. Whoever you report to is probably fucking children. So, that's just true. I mean, like, there is, I see things going in this good way. Could it turn around very easily? Yes. Why? Because they're essentially still working within the same system that is there. They could effectively do something at any time to embolden or protect that centralized system. Are they just coming out on the mainstream media and saying this is how it is and educating the public and turning us all into whiz kids? And you know what I mean? Like, that would be honestly, that's what I think should happen. But are they going to do that? No, because it's not in their best interest to do that, and and they're trying to hold it together, you know. So, I mean, assuming, I don't know. It's like I'm just saying. I'm just telling the intelligence agents, you know, keep your wits about you. You're still compartmentalized, you know. Apparently, it's because that guy freaked out on that plane. He didn't know what was going on with Snowden and his wife and stuff like that. He was in the intelligence agency. He didn't know what was going on, but he was damn well afraid of his own agency. Uh, I said, LOL, gangster capital of the world, aka Chicago, Illinois. Spawn of the dreaded Manchurian candidate, aka Obama, has just passed concealed carry laws. A lot of certain northern states that border Canada are compromised states. Obviously, Wisconsin, I don't know. I mean, I haven't looked at the state map right now, but basically, I assume that certain entry and exit points from another country are very important to the shadow government, because they need to be able to sort of escape the legal system, which should really tell you like that they didn't have everything covered. They still had problems. They still had legit people in institutions. They got real strong. But they were not. Well, they probably were. They may even still be. I'm not saying give up. I'm just saying that that's why you see like the states along the border, and the states along the borders are some of the most corrupt states. So anyway, basically, yeah, they passed a law allowing for concealed carry. And I guess that they were the last state to like not have that law or something. I guess, I don't know. And that's extremely indicative of not just progress, but where things are headed. You know, even in their minds. You know, we think that these things are all just coinciding when they're not. They're implicative of something bigger going on. So, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not looking at your comments. Let me just stop and take a look. Kings get their power from their peasants. If the peasants stand up, the king is no more. I completely agree with your statement. Really, if every single person, that's why they're worried. It's all about controlling the mob, basically. Because if every person literally was like, that's it, I'm changing, I'm not going to use the Federal Reserve note. You know, just forget about like whether or not they stormed their capitals or they all threaten the lives of their, say, local officials and things like that. If they just say, you know what, the Federal Reserve is bullshit. I don't like the idea of there being billionaires. The concept of a billionaire is ridiculous. The concept of a billionaire is literally like an omnipotent person in your society. Now, to get rid of that, you simply just stop valuing all their paper bullshit. You just say, I'm not trading it. If anyone tries to trade it with me, I'm not. And if everyone did a concerted effort and was just like, wait, you mean to tell me that this is a private bank, that it's totally unaudited, it's totally like they basically just create money. They say that they create money for the stability of the economy, but they're just creating money out of thin air. You know, a lot of people don't understand this. They actually think that there's some sort of like interesting mechanism for making it work. When you know they call it fractional reserve banking, stuff like that. They have left that far behind. That's the official story. That's the front for what's going on. What's really going on is they literally just create money out of nowhere. It's a big club. It's a big club of people that create money out of nowhere, and then they go around and they buy up, they lend. You know, it's the same thing as buying up. If you lend somebody something so that they can build something, they buy up all of the industrialization of the country. They put down corporations. Suddenly, you know, your richest person in the community just happens to be like a manager, basically, and they're only making barely anything. all the proceeds, all of the profits, whatever, from that, now deindustrialized county or state, all the profits. Basically, people are getting paid minimum wage. They're on paycheck to paycheck lifestyles. All of them are indebted, and all the profits are going to the CEO on record. I mean, it's just like the people at the top, the manager, the staff, and the managerial staff. All the money's going straight up the top, and then when it gets to the very top, they just delete it, and that's how they keep things from inflating. So their money is not being put into circulation, and that's why things don't get inflated. And in fact, if everyone just started buying paying for things locally that don't owe any of the big banks, what would happen is our currency would inflate phenomenally, because what would happen is more money would go into circulation. So if anyone understands what I'm saying, is it's a money printing club. They go around buying up all the when I say industrial, they go around buying up all of the industrialized aspect, all the businesses, and they call it being corporations, and you just got one or two competing corporations. They're shadow monopolies, basically. They're like, no, we're not a monopoly. There's like two other corporations here, and it's like, yeah, but you're all part of the same club. You've all got the same agenda going on. In my county and my hometown county, which used to have a presence of thriving local businesses, is just dead. Everything is dead, and it's just real sad. I mean, it's got to be waking people up. And when you look around and you see people that are not woken up, you can be damn well sure that they know somebody who's waking up. Their fathers, their grandparents, maybe their professor, their boss. Those are the kind of people that are waking up. So for every sheeple that you see, I would say that there's somebody that's like more important than they are, that is effectively waking up in some way. Anybody. And so, yeah, I mean, okay, so let me keep going up the thing here. What do I really think about Zimmerman and Trayvon's parents? They were all engaged in treason and conspiracy against the United States. So, that whole thing was originally an attack on the Second Amendment. It was an attack on America. Why? Because they were trying to essentially prevent. Well, they were also trying to drum up racial division, sympathy for Obama, obviously, but at the same time, they were also trying to prevent a violent retaking of our country at the Tampa Republican National Convention. Castle law is like, I mean, you could use castle law, and I'm not going to do this. I'm just saying, let's say you're a Ron Paul supporter. Let's say you're carrying a gun in Florida, and I don't want it to get attacked, okay, but a bunch of men come at you who are threatening your life, and you're just standing your ground. Like, there's no reason for those men to lay their hands on you. There's no reason for those men to threaten you, in any bodily harm way, and they're coming after you. It basically gives you the right to pull out your gun and get into a gunfight with those people. Okay, like, that is what the stand your ground law allows. And then people say, well, it could be abused. Like, you're out in the random country and you don't like this guy, you kill him, and you say, he was going to kill me. And the thing is that they just argue with that on Jeanine Pirro or whatever. And let's say you get away with it one time, you can't do it again. And are those abuses? Well, he said that the law works on common sense. If you're out in the middle of nowhere and you use castle law on this guy, like, have there been cases of abuses? Probably, but we live in a corrupted government, so I would say that such instances where the person abused it was the result of some sort of conspiracy. I mean, like, it's basically like the conspiracy is that rampant, okay? Like, there's a man, from my hometown that was getting into the FBI and was a very good man. And supposedly a shootout happens, and shootouts never happen in my little hometown. And he's a cop. He's about to get into the FBI, and he gets shot. And the guy supposedly gets shot. The guy supposedly lives, and basically that guy had a huge criminal history, probably an informant. It was probably an assassination. Okay, so that's an example of how I can feasibly, relate to a real instance. And how many things have happened due to the corruption in government that I'm not aware of, right? Like, let's just talk about, I don't know, there could be tons of things that occur to you that you just have no clue that through the targeting program of the surveillance state affect you every day, And just like how they didn't get their tax refunds, what if I am blacklisted with certain corporations that I apply to, and they're like, nope, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm blacklisted. I don't even know it. You know what I'm saying? So let's keep going. So, but Castle Law is basically Wild West stuff, Like, you're out there, and, basically a dude rides up on his horse, and, you're out there farming or whatever, and you don't know what's going to... No, let's not even say you're farming. You're just out there on your horse. He's out there on his horse. There's barely any law. You don't even know who the lawman is. It's just the Wild West. And that guy could be like, I like your horse, or I like your wife, or I want your gun, or I want whatever. He can just ride up on you and shoot you. And so the whole idea of quick drawing is that you're talking to somebody, and you don't know, and you want to stay peaceful with the guy, but you don't know if he's going to pull out his gun and kill you. I mean, you can piss him off, he'll kill you, and it's just no big deal. He's not worried about any real repercussions, like practical repercussions to his life. And that's why they got their hands ready by their guns, and that's because they're talking dirt to each other. Any second, that guy can pull out a gun. He's saying, I'm not going to kill you because I'm a good man. The other guy's saying, I'm not going to kill you either, but I'm worried about it, so we're just going to turn around real slow and walk away, kind of thing. But I'm going to tell you my piece, and I'm not going to back down. That's where the Castle Law thing comes from. And, it's just, that's the way it is. Like, you can't always assume the law is going to be there. You can't always assume the law is going to argue in your favor. And when it comes down to it, it's just you. You'll deal with the law later. The law is going to do whatever they have to do with you. But whenever it comes down to it, like, you got to maintain your guard on yourself and your possessions, etc. So, all right. I feel bad. I feel bad if somebody, if like, I'll go ahead and tell you this. If there was somebody that got off with something and they abused Castle Law or something like that, there's probably a conspiracy involved. Why? Because there is a conspiracy that has been existing for 3 centuries at least. Murdered 3,000, probably more, Americans on the day of 9/11, then caused endless war. Caused an endless war that's still going on to this day to expand its sphere of influence, kill JFK, but has also caused a bunch of other wars, in the past. So, when you got that going on, you're going to expect things like abuses of law. And Castle Law is one of those things that kind of helps the people more than it helps, say, a corrupt government. So, I don't know. I don't want to tempt anybody to start abusing Castle Law or anything like that, but it's not going to work out for you. You could do pretty much the same thing with any self-defense situation. Let's pull out a knife and kill somebody, and then cut yourself a little bit so that it looks like the guy came at you in self-defense. You don't even have to talk about it. He didn't even use Castle Law in this, so he didn't even evoke it or whatever. Okay. So when it comes down to it, the original operation was simple: have Zimmerman call 911 after chasing a black guy, and he's going to make racist statements, which he did do. Now they're saying, oh, you know what? He didn't say he was black because it's been re-engineered. he said he's black like he can't see him anymore. And now they're getting onto NBC and they're saying that somebody diced up the audio and then made it sound like he was a racist, basically. So, so have Zimmerman scream like he's getting his ass beat and fire a shot and claim Castle Law, okay? Then have the public outrage against Castle Law. However, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened here. The public didn't react as expected, which was kind of happening, to be honest with you. I mean, the Connie thing happened and that flopped. Suddenly people are conspiracy theory minded. The Zimmerman thing happens. When did the Connie thing happen? I don't remember. Might have happened after this thing. I don't know, but I can't remember. I'll look it up later. Anyway, I don't know. I guess the public didn't react as expected. So the PSYOP was just kind of repurposed to create racial division, and no legislation gets passed against Castle Law or anything. Then they basically attempt, but it set the stage for another operation which they attempted, which is the Aurora operation. They were going to pass the UN Small Arms Treaty. They were going to lock down the Tampa Republican National Convention with NATO forces, and that falls apart. And now the cabal is turning against Obama. Well, the cabal is turning against Obama, and now this Zimmerman thing has become an uber convenient method for doing so. So they just started slow leaking this stuff like, oh look, here's Zimmerman's face. He really did get beat up. Because you have to understand, they did release this video of Zimmerman being brought in the cop thing and didn't have any scars or anything on him. He didn't look beat up at all. So maybe they're just, that was the controversy there. And all of a sudden, these pics come out with Trayvon shooting birds and I don't know. Anyway, they just turned it around. And that's really interesting that they did that because it is an extremely, like everybody, all these black people, are being, all these, first off, all these powerful, what I call powerful, white people like liberals, liberal professors, legal people, they're all getting educated on not just constitutional rights, but also the reverse racism thing, the tendency for black people to act irrationally, specifically, in preservance of their racial public image, and I mean, you're watching something that is going to go down in history as like a real problem. I mean, like, I don't know how they're going to be able to address the reverse racism problem within the black community. I don't know how they're going to do that. It's just, the only way to really do that is to like square off with what really happened when white America fought that Civil War. Because the founding fathers were concerned, and they were trying to end that institution of slavery that they didn't start. Okay? They were trying to end it. The colonies, the king did that. The Americans were trying to end it, and their idea was that to end the racial division, we'll have an American colony in Africa, and this would have really helped out the Africans. Let's think old Africa. Okay, we're not talking about the one that's not, has been like that they purposely infected HIV and stuff like that into their populations and funded, gangs that go around killing people. When I'm talking about old Africa, there would have been an American colony with, the Constitution behind it. They would have had an American English language. Just thinking about the sheer damage that was caused when they assassinated Lincoln and kept that from occurring is immense. I mean, the blood on their hands is extraordinary. Anyway, let's go and take a look and see if you have any comments. No, none yet. None yet. Let me see. Oh, okay, so I said Anonymous is a honeypot operation, possibly repurposed with the We Are Legion thing because they're a to demonize the movement. So, yeah, like Anonymous was probably begun in order to monitor, subvert, study online conspiracy theorists. And the thing is that Anonymous ends up kind of turning against their masters, because I think that they just figured out how to do so or whatever, because it was anonymous. I mean, like, you could join and you could be apart from the, you could be your own branch, basically. You didn't have to. So they were able to operate under this umbrella. And then what did Anonymous do? Anonymous supported Ron Paul. They went after the Zionist state of Israel. They went after pedophile networks. They did a lot of good things. I think that WikiLeaks, which I think preceded Anonymous, I don't know, because they say that Anonymous is an old thing that came out of the 4chan or something like that. I don't know. I don't necessarily trust 4chan either, but who knows? I don't know all this stuff. But basically WikiLeaks, I think, kind of did the same thing. That here you have this controlled opposition group that ultimately ends up doing more damage than what was expected. Then there's another argument, which is that basically which is believable, that they have been looking forward to the development of the opposition as an intended thing, like out of a good, being like good or something like that. Like they were intending opposition to come about as the intrinsically engineered thing that they were trying to do. So, did they, but I can't just go all the way with that. If that's true, that might have been like very tippy top and maybe even just a fail-safe, and maybe even just something that they were playing with. I mean, because from my perspective and what we had to go through, which was moving mountains and literally turning the world over, and having to play very smart to get anything out there, that was, that felt like a lot of I mean, it came from a lot of people, but it was not like, you wouldn't have expected. It didn't, from your perception, from the perception of somebody that was in the resistance, you didn't detect any help going on, because there's so much disinformation, and you barely, and like all the stuff that the bombshell stuff is super suppressed, so you really had to dig around and find it and come across it. And there were people out there that were doing their best to get that out there. I mean, like, now you can't pop into a channel which isn't being like, down with the Zionists. So they have thoroughly, the whole Zionist, like the whole Zionist thing is so prominent that I don't feel any need to like address it. I'm kind of like, okay, it's all out there now. You even have shills talking about it. So it's like they've given up on trying to suppress the Zionist issue. But it's more than that, and I'll go ahead and we'll get to that soon. Willie Loman, Scott Creighton did a really good job on showing how the people who put out that recent Snowden video where he's asking for asylum in Russia, was the resistance movement in Russia. So, like Anonymous over here or something like that, or InfoWars or whatever. That version in Russia was the one that put that video out, which really kind of suggests that what we have is we have a universal plan for being on the conspirators, not the conspirators, the powers that be, being on the side of the conspiracy theorists, and then it's the intermediaries that you're dealing with. So some guy's garage caught fire, and all these rounds of ammunition go off inside of his garage. Have I looked into this? No. So if anyone wants to take a look into this, because Aurora is, I mean, you've got a resistance going on in Colorado, and you almost certainly got a resistance going on in Aurora, and people know things in Aurora, and I'm talking about every day in Colorado. You are having some kind of a weird shooting or something like that going on every day. And I don't know how often that is, because I just don't know. But you know, because people are getting arrested all the time. But when it comes to like things that people are dying, crimes that people are dying over, and that's happening every day in Colorado in some weird way, like this. Thousands of rounds of ammo inside a garage caught fire in Aurora this morning. Like, that's just weird. So if anyone wants to look into that, go ahead. That's being done by KDVR Fox 31. Okay. This thing says, my name is Noam Fetterman, and I support killing Palestinians. He said, it's some spokesman for the Israelis. You know, basically Israel's under such a problem. It's like I have to like temper myself not to. But you know, anyway, he said, "quote I think the government should put bombs in the Palestinian hospitals, but unfortunately, the government doesn't do it. So it is up to the people to do those things." Have you ever seen a religion or a nation or a like actually think it is a religious, like, how did the guy put it one time? I mean, basically they think it's like they're doing something holy by killing another group of people. I mean, that is crazy. And Palestinians, okay, hospitals, if you want to know kind of like what's the mindset of people controlling the world, you know, I hate to say it, but that's what you would find. And this is religious conviction, saying, we got to put bombs. The people, you know, if the state doesn't want to do it, the people of Israel are going to have to go and put bombs in the hospitals and schools. Okay, that is crazy. I said, they speak with such religious conviction about such violent things on innocent people. It's crazy. I said, most ironic part about this is that the prosecution could have argued castle law in favor of Trayvon in order to convict Zimmerman. Now, I don't know about that, because I don't know, like, apparently it's like castle, or, you know, the castle doctrine or stand your ground law is just used before the trial for, you know, figuring out whether you're going to go to trial kind of thing. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, you can make that argument. You can, you know, you can make the argument, and I thought this right away. I thought, okay, why are they invoking castle law for Zimmerman? You know, with the original story, you know, the details come out, and it's totally the opposite. But anyway, the official story was like, Zimmerman encroaches upon Trayvon. Then Trayvon tries to kill Zimmerman. I mean, when you really think about it, it's not like Zimmerman wasn't doing something else entirely. No, he was clearly. I mean, it's a form of harassment, or it is. Zimmerman was actually engaging Trayvon in some way, whether that was stalking or whatever. I mean, even when you look at somebody, you're engaging that person. So then just following Trayvon in the dark is really enough to make the argument that Trayvon was evoking castle law, the castle doctrine, in order to kill Zimmerman. And obviously Zimmerman, you know, you'd have to make the argument of whether or not Zimmerman was on a threat continuum, because it's not a threat continuum to follow somebody. It's not a threat continuum to talk to somebody. You have to like either be like invading somebody's personal private space, or kind of like you know, going for a weapon, or you know, balling up your fist. I mean, that's a threat continuum. Obviously, Zimmerman. I mean, just following the official story. When I say official story, people say, well, you don't know what the actual thing happened as a trial. It's like, no, I can tell what the official story is trying to say. So the official story is that Zimmerman was just kind of like being a neighborhood watch guy, and was like, hey, what are you doing here? And then like Trayvon, you know, apparently had, you know, racist, malicious intent to beat him up. Anyway, you know, I guess I'm wrong. You can't argue cast the law in favor of Trayvon. Could they have tried to do it? Yeah, in fact they did. But I mean, that's just the irony of it. All right. Quantum computing will solve everything in terms of transparency. Is no coincidence the emergence of technology to see what we do. That's basically correct. So right now they're able to forge all of this bullshit. They're able to forge the stuff necessary to create this trial. Literally, I mean, you could probably look up Shipping Bio, and which might even be a made-up name. The guy might not even live in America. The guy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is just an actor. You know, his notes, his events, and everything, they can just forge it out of nowhere. And in fact, when that fake cell phone footage came out for the what I call the Bonnie Kate operation, the people involved, Bonnie Kate Perchow and Chris Lakota, I immediately went, as soon as I started seeing it coming out, I was like, you know what, I'm going to do some Google searches, and I need to see if the mainstream media, and this was not just me, this was Cinnamon's My Name thought the same thing, because as soon as it started coming out, we started searching those names, and there was nothing. Now there's tons of information on those names, okay, but when you first looked for it, it was not there. They just created it out of thin air, gave it faked date stamps in Google too, for putting it, you know, having happened 2 days right after the event. But the truth was is that they were, you know, building an online, they were building a digital footprint which was not real. But quantum computing will allow us to validate such things. Why? Because, you know, I have a feeling that, well, basically because first off, it's transparent. Let me think about this. I mean, like, it'll take me a little bit of time to think about this, but when you do quantum computing, you've got something which is not necessarily digital. In other words, like, you've got something which is technically like analog, and it's not necessarily recorded. It can't be intercepted, and you know, if I could have I could be downloading the internet. I don't know. I'll figure this out later. But I remember I had an idea for it. I know everybody's thinking I'm bullshitting them, but I'm pretty, you know, confident that what quantum computing will allow us a lot more transparency. They will not just be able to forge things. We will effectively like have copies of the internet for ourselves that we can validate, and whatever. I'm just going to drop that. Let's see. Oh, good. Some more comments. Steve says the Zionists are into fulfilling prophecy, so maybe these leaks and libertarian bent are a product of them following their religious predictions. Yeah, but yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, but the thing is that the Zionists, yeah, all about prophecies, and certainly I thought the same thing, that they have always engineered a resistance movement who would turn against the evil Muslim infiltrator, and they may still be following down this route. But as you'll see later, I think in my program, I'm going to talk about how it seems that they've turned on Israel, or they've turned on Zionism, because it's just gotten such bad PR. Basically, could they try something? I don't think that they'll be able to try something to fix it. But when it comes to prophecies, yes, but not just the Judeo not just the Abrahamic religions of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are trying to fulfill their prophecies, but also the uh, cabal, or like, the occultic aspects of those Abrahamic religions have prophecies that basically, I'm wondering whether or not the Israelis, Jews, or Judaism, or the elders of Zion even have anything to do with, because, and I'll just be honest with you, I know a lot of people are very protective over the Zion thing, which I agree. I mean, it needs to be taken down. But is that itself just a branch of an overall evil perspective or occultic perspective, which is like, we've got to fulfill the prophecies because the Mashiach that the Jews think are coming is actually the, say, Antichrist of the Christian Bible and the Hall of the, which they actually believe of the Quran, and we want that guy. That's the guy that we want. That's the one that, So I can't tell, because you got to be pretty evil and have the Jews, just by virtue of their Judaism, shown that they can be that evil. Yes, but is there an occult involved? Maybe I kind of see the problem being a mixture of the two, basically. But have they engineered that into Judaism? I don't know. But when you look at the Talmud, it's there. Eric Lee. Oh, the mentality of Zionism. Blah, blah, blah. Eric Lee, probably Steve. Yeah, talk to each other. All right, so I said, I already talked about that. I think that the whole Zimmerman case really kind of solidified in my mind the way the courts and the legal proceedings and the lawyers are going to be very much pro-Constitution, Bill of Rights, and it was just very impressive. I mean, it was somewhat pre-planned, staged, fake, whatever. I mean, you actually had not the guy with hair, but the bald one. And what's really interesting is that they picked a couple very like neurotic, nerdy-looking lawyers to be the defense team, and these are guys that that just look like the. It's amazing how do they pull these people out. But anyway, it looked like they were appealing to the intellectuals among the people of America, or to get it around. Anyway, I said, LOL, Geraldo Rivera, bless him, reveals to the mainstream media that Obama's intervention in the Trayvon killing was enough to impeach Obama alone. Exactly, yes. So Geraldo Rivera gets on there, and he's like, all of this bullcrap is basically because the President of the United States, I mean, let's just forget about, the fact that the mainstream media was all over it. But anyway, the President of the United States basically jumped the gun and said, and this is like the chief, executive officer and everything, and he's like, this guy could like, pardon anybody, and he's just off the bat is just like, this is a tragedy, guns are a problem, if and then sides with Trayvon, who was potentially a murderer, which is, if I had a son, he would look like Trayvon. I mean, that's just racist, it's crazy, and he could be impeached for that, really. And do they want, is that what they're planning on impeaching him for? No, apparently. It looks like they want to keep him around a little bit longer. It looks like they need some more shit to pile up on this man. But it's a huge snowball right now that's rolling. All right, the sadistic pleasure I get from the idea of Trayvon showing up on live TV, watching all the shills and sheep swirling around, convulsing and seething education. Exactly. So I was trying to kind of like just get a voice of reason, a kind of voice of reality out there, and say, you know what, guys, the original thing was a total stage psyop. Trayvon Martin is probably alive, and he's probably laughing his ass off right now. So he's not in jail for treason. Basically, Trayvon Martin was, in fact, probably not even killed, and probably some of the photos that came out later of him being like smoking and like shooting birds and stuff like that was taken after the fact, specifically for this operation, this trial, to drum controversy and racism. So, is he probably alive? Considering it was an event that Obama cared to remark upon as part of a psyop. Probably is. Probably Trayvon Martin is alive, and it would just be so funny, the idea of watching this alive person that's officially dead and is stirring up the entire world right now to get on TV and be like, "Hey everybody, I'm alive. How's it going?" And everybody's like, "What? It's got to be a lookalike." And then it's like, "No, nope, I'm Trayvon." And then people are like, "No way, dude! Like, how is that the case?" He's like, "Oh, you guys are all in a big slave system. It's a big conspiracy." This is one example of how they could really bring down the conspiracy if they wanted to, which is why I'm kind of like, I don't know what you guys are doing, okay? But that would probably be right now the easiest way to bring down the entire thing, is to get Trayvon Martin on live TV and let him give an interview as to what happened to him. I mean, do you understand that? Do you want to bring it down? Do you want the real world, the new world to come? Go get Trayvon Martin, put him on TV, do an interview where he tells everybody exactly what happened. Do you want to do that? Wouldn't that be fun? All right. Let's see. Obama administration considering federal charges. This is part of the plan of impeaching Obama or whatever. Somebody says, and it was interesting, I had to calculate it. They said, scripted or not, regarding the original Trayvon thing or whatever, the real problem with this case was hidden money. It is clearly a problem that in the USA, and also an international problem. Example, Zimmerman got $1 million bail in a day. As somebody says, you suggest that they're infighting? So apparently, I don't know, I guess Zimmerman went to jail and then there was $1 million bail, and then after a day, like, he had $1 million. And I don't think that implies, there's infighting. I think that implies that, you know how Trayvon's family, there's pictures of Trayvon's dad, he's a black Mason, etc. That Zimmerman's dad was an in the know kind of guy. He was a powerful person. You can kind of pick it up from him, and you can pick it up. I mean, what you can't pick up is that somebody so well off would be a night watch captain for their neighborhood. No, when you look at the way the brother conducts himself and stuff like that, there's like, oh, you guys are a privileged family, which is what I pick up from. I also pick up that they're gay. So this corroborates the, Obama was using Acorn, members of Acorn, compromised people, to do things, because a lot of these people in these cover-ups tend to have like a feminine lisp, and the women are like butches and the men are like girls, and it's kind of like, wait, why is this all happening in the cover-ups? And then there's this group called Acorn, which is this fanatical liberal group, which is probably like a Fed front, and what they do is they partake in psyops that they believe will ultimately progress us into a state of, forget whether or not it's noble, and the truth is that the true conservative idea of, and this is probably when things change, of paying attention to the Constitution, which is like civil liberties and stuff like that, is liberal, okay? And and so you'll notice that the gay thing passed after everything's turning around. So how could that be the case? Well, what's going on is they're like, wait a minute, the liberals are actually like subverting the country, and it's actually the pro-Constitution people, the libertarians, who are trying to let me marry my same-sex partner. All right, so anyway, then I said, but that could be sad. Like, why are both of the brothers gay? Is the father an insider? Is the father, essentially guilty of never mind. I don't want to go on record saying it. I don't know. I guess I have free speech or whatever, but I just think about reality, guys. You know what I mean? I like to think about reality, and and that's why I know what I do and why I'm at where I'm at. And when it boils down to it, Zimmerman, who is now being repurposed and championed by pro-Constitution people, was in fact originally involved in the subversion of the Constitution. So, you know, I mean, like past judgments later, I just know what reality is. So, I mean, I'm not going to say one way or the other. All right. Then there's these websites that are coloring Trayvon white with blonde hair, blue eyes, and they're coloring Zimmerman black. And they're like, if you reverse it, it would be a different way. And it's like, nope, you guys are totally ignoring the way that they're pitching the story to you, all the evidence and stuff like that. And that's the thing. That right there, when intellectual people engage themselves, which there are tons of people, I mean, politically involved right now. That's the whole point of this thing. You know, a nice racy story like this gets everybody involved. They know this because they look at these charts. The NSA has the ability to literally tap into the zeitgeist through this sort of stuff. And that's probably why they potentially based the PSYOP on me, because they were able to see that I was fanatical or something like that. Anyway, I'm sorry, I don't mean to get into egotistical stuff, but anyway, this was, oh, I'll go ahead and read it to you. I said, this is sure to cause controversy. Sure to cause controversy. You see, they never really fully reversed the original official story to the new official story in the mainstream narrative. The original official story is that a racist profiled Trayvon. So a racist Zimmerman profiled, this is the original official story, profiled Trayvon, and Trayvon saw a gun and defended himself violently. And Zimmerman shot him, and it was an attack on Castle Law. Like, here's this situation where this guy ends up, you know, claiming Castle Law. I mean, they had him screaming on. That's why he was screaming in the first place. It was like, here's a guy, he's screaming, he kills this poor black kid, and the truth is that the black kid, you know, thought he was being stalked or killed by a guy with a gun, and that's what happened. So the new official story is that Zimmerman was a victim of reverse racism, or in other words, black on white racism by the mainstream media, one, and two, Trayvon was a racist. I mean, this is the new official story. Trayvon was a racist, and Zimmerman never knew Trayvon's race. It was just a hoodie up. It was too dark to determine. So, and that's why he said he's black, because he was saying I lost visibility of him. Because NBC apparently edited the 911 call to a different way. And then Trayvon ambushed Zimmerman with the intent to fight. So they totally re-engineered it. Okay, which is scary. I mean, you don't want them to be able to just do this so bad. But the reason it's working, I think, is that there are so many people on board, possibly in a good way, and that's why they're able to be so sloppy, basically, and they do so on purpose, really. But all right. All right. This guy, Chris Hedges, quote, "We now live in a nation where doctors destroy health, lawyers destroy justice. That is scary. I want you to know something. I think in the past, if you were blacklisted and you went under the knife, and I think that they were offing people. I think that they would call in, you know, muscle. I think that they would call in surgeons, compromised people. And if you were blacklisted for whatever reason, you went under the knife, you went unconscious, there would be some sort of mistake. If you were in a protected institution, like basically if a hospital is, you know, not everywhere, but there's usually some kind of stipulation where even if there's malpractice, you can't sue them. You can only sue them for so much. Why? Because somehow the state's involved with that hospital, maybe through a university, whatever. But if you're blacklisted and you was going to go under, there was a chance that they would basically kill you or mortally, but it'd take you out of the picture, basically. That's for anyone that wants to think about that. Lawyers destroy justice, universities destroy knowledge, governments destroy freedom. Because you got all these stories about like doctors leaving instruments like weird spatulas, or performing a surgery with a spatula and stuff like that. I mean, the only way that they can get away with that is if they're protected. And hey, there's a conspiracy, and yes, there are probably malignant forces in the health field. Press destroys information, religion destroys morals, and our banks destroy the economy. And I said, and the news destroys truth. Watch what happens when things reverse. So we have no conception of the beautiful world that will occur when things reverse. So Will Smith says, we live in America where a girl that threw flour on Kim Kardashian was arrested on sight, but the man who killed Trayvon Martin is still free. And I said, because Kim Kardashian is such a beacon of whiteness. Regardless, here you go. Will Smith, simply by virtue of being black, and as if there's not millions of murders all the time, hundreds of murders every day that you can choose from, decides to voice himself and potentially, according to the evidence, back up a murderer, or a guy that was attempting to murder somebody, Trayvon Martin. I mean, it's just crazy. A total ignorance of the evidence, and instead what you see is raw racial pride, racism. And you might make the argument everything is warranted. You have to understand everything is warranted. But people will try to make that argument, oh, the blacks have to protect it because they get ostracized if they don't correctly fall in line, or there's a circular, blacks are causing blacks to come. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the comments. Let me take a look. Balfour, Hitler, Jewry, LOL. Let's see. It's all confusing because there is a promotion of libertarians at the same time the liberals are trying to make Rand Paul out as a racist. Maybe I haven't actually seen that, but what they're doing is they're trying to make it look like they're basically trying to get the intellectuals to shift into, which if they're not already there, to shift into this like, oh, libertarianism is the, not just libertarianism, but maybe even conspiracy theory, is the intellectual position. And it's these so-called liberals, so-called liberals, that are actually racist, or that are actually irrational, etc., etc. So they would do things like make Obama issue a statement right after the Trayvon, or right after the Zimmerman verdict, and then he's like, doesn't come out to try to stop, I mean, is he addressing all of the riots that are going on right now? No. So what are they doing? Well, it's so crazy. It's so obvious. It is so obvious. Right now, the only thing that we are suffering is a lack of representation in the media, because, and not just that, but just the lack of persons. The reason that there are so many people out right now is just that it was church day, and all the black churches, and not only that, but all the preachers and stuff like that probably talked about it, and these people are inherently, peaceful. So anyway, that's why you have a bunch of people going out and standing around. All right. But what's saddening is that Occupy Wall Street supposedly is going out and standing for Trayvon, which is part of their liberal agenda or whatever. So what you have truly seen is that Occupy Wall Street has now, I think that's probably what happened to Occupy Wall Street. So a lot of Occupy Wall Street people became clued in on how libertarianism is what they need to go for, and consequently, what's left of what's called Occupy Wall Street is really just this, very confused group of people. So, are they concerned about, are they concerned about, equal treatment for African Americans and stuff like that, which should be, which should be addressed. I mean, I'm not going to say that there aren't some very irrational white people out there, but, if anything, what you're seeing is that there's like what, 90% of the blacks that you know, maybe even 100% of the blacks that you see on the news giving their opinion is completely not agreeing with the verdict here. Did Zimmerman do something wrong? Should he have been chastised for it? As they said, yes. And but when it boils down to it, uh, Zimmerman, excuse me, should have been chastised for it, yes. Is that what the black people wish would happen? Like, if they would have thoroughly spanked Zimmerman on the wrist, would they have been happier? I don't think that they would have been happy I don't even think they would have been happy with 10 years. They wanted to see like 20 or more or death. Like, they would have been totally happy. Just throw out all the evidence, kill this dude, just kill him. And they would have been like, that's exactly what I want. And that's scary. Like, if the power structure wanted to help the perception of black people, they would have made it look like this guy was going to get off. Then they would have gave him the death penalty, and then they would have had black people coming out saying, no, that's an injustice. Whoa, chill out. That would have been good PR for black people. That's not the point of this PSYOP. The point of this PSYOP is to reveal, essentially to the American people, maybe even hopefully to blacks themselves, but that's not the point, that there is a reverse racism problem in this country. And we're dealing with that just in general, and with an attempt to undo it and get there and actually be able to have negative opinions of Obama, getting the race aspect out of the way, because a lot of real smart people are suffering from the reverse racism. And if you want to be able to attack Obama and the cabal and its policies, etc., you have to tackle the issue of whether or not that person is being racist. And so that's the whole point of the PSYOP. That's it. But another good way to do it is to tell everybody the truth and get Trayvon Martin, who's still alive, to get on live TV, So, all right. BKW Fool says, what is void? I'm new. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to. What's the void? Steve Simmons says, Young Turks and Bill Mayer took a jab at Rand for him hiring the Southern Avenger, who apparently has a history of racist remarks. I don't know if that was recent or not, but yeah, the Southern Avenger, I don't trust him. He shilled. I mean, like, well, he didn't shill, but necessarily, but he certainly tried to make it look like Rand was doing the right thing. And Bill Mayer, he's an idiot, and the Young Turks dude is probably an insider, but he's nonetheless an idiot also. And do I really like Rand Paul? I probably should like Rand Paul, but the thing is that they were trying to. Somebody was positing that there would be a Rand Paul. Who's that guy in Texas? That's also on commercials talking about abolishing the IRS. And do I trust either of these guys? I just can't. I think there's dirt on Rand. I think that's specifically how they got to Ron Paul. It was through his son. It just looks like it, and it's not like they're bad people. It's more like they're now forced to have a lifestyle. They're compromised. I mean, there's no way to say it. And a lot of people that are compromised then have to get into the culture in order to sort of like just be able to not kill themselves of doing bad things. And so maybe they've always kind of had that dirt on Rand, and they were ready to pull it out on top of Ron Paul as soon as that time came around. And then they did do that. And then they said, we're gonna show it if you continue and you don't do what we're supposed to do. And Ron Paul, it probably took more than that to get Ron Paul to compromise. I mean, but I'm just saying that that I really don't want to compromise assets. And in fact, I'm actually starting to think that who they have in mind, who may even be the real president right now, pulling strings. Never mind. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's see. Um, it has been over an hour. Okay, I gotta go, guys. I will just say something I wanted to say here. There's a lot of people in Israel that are protesting because they're saying the government's not running things too well and prices are rising and the economy's going to shit. And I think that that's a sign that the powers that be, who realize that Israel is such a bad PR aspect of things, have dropped the whole pursuit of just unabashedly supporting Israel and everything. And I'd say maybe for about 6 months now, 6 or more months, there has been a move away from Israel. So a very good night to everybody. Thank you for dropping by, and I'll see you guys later.